like to welcome you to the Magdalen Chapter tonight. Welcome Susie along for this Dine with Bordeaux. I'm just going to tell you about the run of the evening. We're going to plate all the food up here so you can see what's going on each course. We're going to bring out here while Susie's talking about the wine that's going to be going with it. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the menu, tell you what you're having tonight, and then let Susie get on telling you about the wines that are going with it, because that's really why everyone's here.
Delighted to be here. I'm a local girl, so it's lovely to be in this wonderful hotel. Recently, big award-winning hotel. Congratulations to everyone here for winning the Food and Travel Awards, Regional Award for Best City Hotel in the whole of the UK. Quite something. Bring it home for Exeter. Brilliant. But inspired by my trip to Bordeaux last September, I was there with a couple of other journalists just as the vintage started in September 2012. And what struck me, I hadn't been to Bordeaux, I've been writing about wine forever, and I've been to Bordeaux lots of times, but I hadn't actually been for a while. And a couple of things struck me about today's Bordeaux. One was the modern style of some of the wines. Not all the wines, some are much more traditional than others. But Bordeaux has got the message. It knows it's got New World competition. It has known for quite some time now. The very thin, austere, less expensive wines of the past have been replaced by fresher, more vibrant white wines, richer, riper is the word, reds, because they see the competition from Australia and Chile. How could they miss it? And South Africa. And they've had to really up their game. The other thing that was really striking this time was the versatility of the region. I think it used to be, I can speak independently here, I don't think anyone's going to come and tell me if I say the odd negative thing, but I think Bordeaux used to be a narrow-minded region. It focused very heavily on its top of the range, oaky red wines and some of the sweet wines. Now we're seeing more sparkling wine, which I hope you're enjoying now. So it is an area not just about oaky red wines, about a wide variety of styles. We're reflecting that tonight. I hope you enjoy it. The menu is very much Bordeaux-led, Bordeaux-influenced. And there's a great variety of food coming along to match with this great variety of wines as well. The first wine that you've had is the Chateau de Sour's Sparkling Rosé. As I say, sparkling wine isn't a massive thing from Bordeaux, but they do make it. They make their crémence, which is a quality style of sparkling wine made in France outside of Champagne. If it's a crémence, it should be made to good quality standards. But this is actually made in the Champagne method. It's from Cabernet and Merlot grapes, so 2 red grapes, crushed lightly so you get a bit of pink colour leaching into the juice, and then it's fermented once, then put in bottle, a bit of yeast and sugar added, bottle capped off, and second fermentation triggered off in the bottle. You get the bubbles trapped in the wine and then kept on its yeast sediment, on its lees for 12 to 15 months to give it a bit of richness that you should be tasting fresh, crisp acidity and a bit of richness and creaminess in there too. And we're moving on now to our white wine of the evening, and this is from Dort, D-O-U-R-T-H. You've probably got it. You've got it all written down on the menu. It's Dort, and that's a big company actually. It's a company that is what the French call a négociant, which means it buys in a lot of wines from various different parts of the region and ages them and makes them and blends them itself and sells them out, as well as having its own vineyard. So after this, we're going on to specific chateaux. Dort is a big company, and it's very, very high quality, I think, given that it produces quite a lot of wine. It's a very consistent label in Bordeaux wine. And this is its number 1, that's the name of the cuvée of the release, and it's a Sauvignon Blanc. Now the 2 white grapes of Bordeaux, I know some of you know this already, but for those that don't, the 2 white grapes of Bordeaux are Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. And Bordeaux is a blending region, whereas Burgundy puts out most of its wines as single varietals, a Pinot Noir for reds, a Chardonnay for whites. Bordeaux is a region that likes to blend, and so often you'll find a lot of the wines are, the white wines, sweet and dry, have the zesty, zingy, crisp fruit of Sauvignon Blanc. You all know Sauvignon Blanc, I'm sure it's international grape, and the Semillon giving it a little bit more richness and fatness. That's the character of that grape. But in recent times, a lot of modern, early drinking, unoaked Bordeaux whites have been produced that are really just Sauvignon Blanc, and this one is just Sauvignon Blanc. So I hope you're going to, when you taste this wine, enjoy it already, get the real mouth-watering acidity of this grape. It's not made in the very strong perfumed gooseberry New Zealand style, which I personally find quite relentless. It's a more delicate style, it's more citrus fruit and quite high acid, so it's meant to be refreshing, easy drinking, early drinking. and a million miles away from the heavier oaked whites of the Bordeaux region. 2010 was hot and dry, lots of sunshine, a really good year, but produced quite big concentrated, lots of extract in those wines, quite big wines. So this is Chateau des Gravières, it's got an S on the end of Gravière, 2010. It's from Graves. Now, Bordeaux is often described as being left bank and right bank. It depends what side of the river you're on. And this is a left bank wine. Sorry, so this is Graves, which is just below, left bank, right bank, I'm getting confused now. Just below the Medoc and the Haute Medoc, and the Graves area has a lot of pebbly limestone, sandstone going on there, and so it's very free draining, and the vines get an awful lot of room to tuck right down and pick up lots and lots of minerals and flavour in there. And this wine is a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, and those are the two great red grapes of Bordeaux. So we have the two great white grapes of Bordeaux, Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon, and we've now got the two red grapes of Bordeaux, Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. And this wine, which is quite atypical of the region, is 80% Merlot and 20% Cabernet Sauvignon. Now, normally it would be the other way around in this part of Bordeaux, but here we've got it that way around. So I think probably the best thing to do is let you enjoy it. I will come back and tell you much more of the geeky side of the winemaking again, but in brief, after you've had a chance to try it. We've paired it here with the Ox Cheek Bordelais. Now, Bordelais obviously means Bordeaux style, so it's a red wine Bordeaux sauce. Do you want to tell us any more about that?
Basically, it's stock made from veal bones and beef bones. We've reduced that right down with, I think we've got about 7 bottles of wine in the sauce, so quite a lot of wine. There's about 8 kilos of onions in it as well, so like quite real French kind of flavours going in it. And then just as it's come off the heat, we've taken the bone marrow from the bones and just whisked it in, and that fat just melts into the sauce and gives it a real richness. And that's basically it. It's kind of unadulterated red wine and beef.
This second red, I'll shut up in a minute, let you enjoy it before I tell you any more about it. But this second red is from 2004, so it's significantly older. And what we thought we'd do when I discussed this with the wine merchants who supplied the wine for wonderful wines on the wine list here and for tonight, I said we need one that's more Cabernet than Merlot and one that's the flip side, so we're doing that for you. And we want one that's quite young and from one of these big chunky recent vintages, and we want one that's got a bit more age, just not loads of age, but just a bit more, because when good red Bordeaux ages, it loses the intensity and really big fruit, and instead you start to see those secondary characteristics coming in. So you should be picking up here a wine that's more mellow, it's softer, it's less overtly fruity and more kind of earthy, savoury, that kind of soft characteristics that are less to do with blackcurrant and plum and more to do with something that's had a lot more age and is starting to develop into something a little bit different. So 2004 was not the absolute wow vintage that 2010 was, but it was good. It was pretty good vintage. It wasn't awful in any sense at all. I'll show you that. But it is, obviously, we're looking at a wine that's 9 years old now, so it's got a little bit of age on it. Sweet wine for you now, and we're in Sauternes, which is quite a bit further to the southeast, and the Sauternes region is one of the great dessert wine regions of the world, and the reason is that there's a particular type of R-O-T, rotten grapes called noble rot or botrytis, which affects the grapes in the great dessert wine areas all over the world, whether they be Hungary for Tokai or Austria in the Burgenland or certain parts of the New World, but very famous in particularly Germany around the Mosel and the other kind of river regions of Germany, and in Bordeaux. And botrytis or noble rot is created often in areas which are near bodies of water, and so you get a lot of mist rising up in the autumn, particularly in the mornings. And this rot develops on the grapes. If you ever see a picture of nobly rotten grapes, it looks horrible. It infects them and it shrivels them, and in that it intensifies the acidity and the sugars. It basically evaporates a lot of the water, And when you take these ugly looking late ripened, very late ripened, not picked till the autumn, nobly rotten grapes, been affected by this particular rot, the juice that comes out of them is like an elixir of wonderfully sweet citrus fruit and honeysuckle and butterscotch and light toffee. Very, very high in sugar content, but also high in acidity and all the different flavours of the grapes.